Okay guys, so it's very nice to be here in Idrija. It's my first time in Slovenia and some of my friends from Gothic Association as well. So we are very glad that you accepted us. And what we would like to present is our kind of work or approach to cultural heritage. It's like very romantic punk. I really like that expression of Drake's. So it's kind of, you know, we try to do what we can, not on a professional level, but we'll learn as we go. I think that's everything in life. You have to do it. Like if you knew before how much work it will take to get to your goal, you never start. So it's the best, you know, just jump into it. So that's kind of our story that developed from we have the start of the story in the 90s actually, so some of us weren't alive back then, but just go very briefly through that period. Gothic route, as the name stays in Slovakia, was the first educational trail after the dissolution of Czechoslovakia in 1993. So the Gothic route connected the regions from Spiš, from Poland border to Hungarian border. It was all mining regions similar to Idrija. It was mostly iron ore. It has pretty much the same story of the whole Carpathians. We have the same story with Romanians as well. It's like in the 13th century, the Mongolian invasion came. They decimated the local population, even in the Ora regions. And the King Belo IV invited German miners to come to the region and to actually extract mine and to bring the technology to do it more efficiently. So that's how the economy of and the power of the region arose. And on that power, actually, a local nobility had good connections to Italy, to Italian, through the kings, through the king in Budapest, of the Hungarian king. They had good diplomatic connections with Western Europe. So they've seen like how it is done, how the architecture is developing, how the actual medieval art is going, what are the new trends in the 1302 and so on, how the paintings are going, like the newly developed technology of fresco paintings. I will get into that more into detail later on. But we had this similar story in those regions, Spiš and Gemer, and some of the guys, like back then, they were pretty much our age. They wanted to present it on an international level, and European money started to flow into the Eastern Bloc, and they developed a project of this Gothic route with Germans and French guys to have it a tourism kind of project for 2 weeks that the Germans will come to find their roots, in our regions, to find for their ancestors, and also to visit all the Gothic churches. We are talking mostly about sacred heritage, but it was castles, chateaus, and other stuff as well. It was connecting municipalities, churches, entrepreneurs, hotels, and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was the whole road was pretty much marked with the signs along the roads. The maps were, developed, the promo materials and stuff like that, but it wasn't managed. It wasn't managed. So after the project stopped, after 5 years funding, it pretty much disappeared. It went to cold, to freezer. Just the material stayed somewhere in some hotels, but nobody knew how to tell the tourists, like, you can enter this church on this condition, because the doors in the churches are never open. It's pretty much the same situation in Slovenia, I believe. So it's the hardest part to actually get in. So it didn't work eventually. So it was put on hold for almost 20 years. And in 2008, our predecessors started to operate Gothic Route Association, but it wasn't on a massive level like this, because we are talking, I don't know, about 200 cities and villages, yeah? So they started operating around Rožňava, which is a small mining town, around 17,000 people in the central part of Slovakia, in this Gemer region. And they just started to look for the medieval churches just around this town. It really needed help. Those were enthusiasts and professionals from Monument Board and from development agencies and so on. So they're starting to help the churches and their owners to actually take good care of their heritage, like strategically, like you have to apply for the funding and, you know, with the Ministry of Culture, and you have to do it in this way. And in the same time, they try to do some promotions, but on very small scale level, as this is, as we call it, old guard, you know, so they had their own approaches, but they didn't really understand how to do it nowadays. When the story changed was actually 2016, when a bunch of students of architecture, medieval heritage, or medieval history and theology were just traveling. A bunch of friends from Bratislava were traveling along the city or along the whole country, and the Gemeri is very picturesque. It's a very nice region, talking on a you know, countryside level and stuff like that. A lot of architecture, like the folk one, is preserved there by poverty, because now it's like really poor and region with high unemployment rate and so on. And they just, you know, they were kind of brave. Again, they put on the brave face and they entered the monument board like, hey, we are studying architecture, we are like in our second degree, so do you need any help? How to preserve, or, you know, do some volunteering? So the old guard grabbed the opportunity, like, guys, you want to do something from Bratislava, just come this summer, we will make an event in one of the churches, and you will, you know, organize some concert with the local gypsy boys, you know, to attract the community, and we will present it to you, like how it is done, how the churches are restored. It will be beneficial for you as well. So the guys just entered, and they started to work on that. Actually, Michael and Vlado were this kind of group. I joined them a year later, but it's a different story. So we teamed up. And that's what we started to do, is like not only helping the actual churches, but we grabbed the opportunity to design and to have like new promotional materials, not look like in the 90s, but to have something that worth of 21st century. And we were lucky enough because the old guard already had this wonderful logo in their drawer, because it was designed by some random students that were traveling by as well. And they had this project, Design on Wheels, and they were doing it for the NGOs around the whole Slovakia. So they already got developed this logo and the whole map with the logos of the churches. So they had it in the drawer, but they didn't know what to do with it. So that's when the new guys came and like, what, you have everything ready, just take it to the world, you know, and show it. So that's how I compare 90s and the 20s, or the 21st century. The maps are already there, so you can grab them afterwards. And so that's kind of a story, like how you can develop an enthusiasm in heritage just out of thin air. And then somebody grabs you, like, okay, if you want to do something, here it is. And from that year, the guys realized, once we were coming to the region regularly, you know, meeting locals, seeing the villages, there is not only one church, that it's so many of them. And we are not talking about the Spiš and Geme region, but again, only about Geme region. So we were more focused on the region, but still it is like 30 medieval churches with frescoes inside. So we are not working on one building in one city. We are trying to operate 3 districts with almost 200,000 people, with Catholics, with Lutherans, with Calvinists, you know, with different bishoprics, with different self-governing regions. So administrative, it's a complete hell, yeah, okay? I will be very honest with that. So let's see some pictures. It doesn't work, okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, there is 30 of these churches, more or less, yeah, that have already discovered the paintings. But 12 of them is like the majority that received European Heritage label. That's an award that we got attached as well with Mateusz, as you are from UNESCO. Girls and guys from Herculane, mostly girls, sorry, are from Europa Nostra, and we had European Heritage label just very freshly received. It's about the activation of the community and visitors in the heritage sites. So that was, and along that, presenting the European story. So we had Italians, we had Germans, we had Hungarian nobility, we had Slovaks. So it was the whole story pretty much in there, like how the Europe developed, you know, in those times, and how the heritage survived until nowadays. So that was pretty much the whole package. So we went for that. We got the label, and the label was done in 12 churches, and it helped us to establish a platform to communicate with everybody. So there is just a few of them. Yeah, it's just, you can check them on our webpage, but there is just a few of them. It's a Romanesque Roton from the 13th century with paintings inside. It's from the middle of the 13th century. It's actually refurbished. Here is Rimavské Brezo, one of the villages with the medieval church that was completely rebuilt, but remnants of the frescoes are still present, and it's refurbished as well, or restored. Then Kraskovo, very picturesque scenes really of the countryside. Then there are some really quality details that resembles really Italian artists. So we don't have the documents that the Italian artists actually came to our region in the 14th century, but according to restoration artists and historians, it's like it couldn't happen anyhow in a different way. Someone from Italy had to come here. And in Plešivec, there are one of the most quality frescoes outside of Italy in our region, actually. But the church was badly damaged a few hundred years ago, so it's not well preserved, but we still have the remnants that are of high quality. This is Kameňany, is the church where we actually held our workshop during this Project RE activities, and we were restoring the surroundings of the church, because we want to approach as well how to connect the community. It's mostly Roma village, like 90% of the villagers are Romas, so it's high unemployment rate, so it's kind of hard to communicate, so we really needed to team up with the mayor and so on, and to actually work with them around the church, because they are not going to the church. It's a Lutheran church, and they are not active parish community, so we needed to activate them to actually take care of it so they won't destroy it. Yeah, because it happens, so unfortunately. But you have to have the connection that they actually worked on something that they have to protect from anything from the village. So that's what we've done, and we would like to continue on that. So it was like an experiment for us. That's the interior of the church. This is our most beautiful jewel, Štítnik. You will see more picture of it from the 15th century. And yeah, so we have two pillars of our activities, actually. It's monument protection and then the presentation of the heritage. The monument protection, we have like three main activities, I would say. We support of the owners since 2008. We have grant system in the Ministry of Culture, as pretty much every country. And the churches that they are not able to actually apply for them, they are not skilled enough and so on. So we help them to write the projects actually, and to systematically move them towards like what you need to do with your church to be in a good condition. So that's what we do with the communication with a lot of parishes. Yeah, we help. So that's how it looked. That's just the monument protection. This is the churches that we are helping with protection. This is the actual logo of the Gothic route. So that was designed by the designers on the Holy Trinity. It's we call it Triglav because it's three faces of one God, it was forbidden by the Trident Council, so it couldn't be used by Christians anymore. So it's very rare to find it. And this was really in the shape of a logo, so designers just went for it, and we are very glad that we have it. This is Štítnik again. It's a monumental basilica in the middle of the village of 1,000 people, but it's a huge church that you wouldn't expect in such a region. Yeah, the guys can tell you that it was quite mesmerizing to enter this church. And yeah, so then we have this Owner in Need. It's our own program that we co-finance this Ministry of Culture grants, because you need 5% co-financing. So we raise the money. We are not good at fundraising as you guys, but we really are starting like growing, let's say. And most of our incomes was through we have the system of you can donate 2% of your tax to any NGO. Yeah, usually people give it to schools of their kids and so on, but monument protection, and that we are going recognized, and we try to go to discussions and to media as well, try to develop communication as well. So year by year, we raise, the last year I think it was around 6,000 to 7,000 euros that we can redistribute to the actual churches. So that's our promotion. Like afterwards, when we try to get the money from the next year, so we present like what we financed the last year from your 2%. So usually we do 5 to 6 to 7 heritage projects, somewhere, and it's co-financed by the Central European Foundation as well. So somewhere it's 500 euros, somewhere it's 1,000, somewhere it's 200 euros, but it helps the parishes a lot because, as I mentioned, it's really declining region, and a lot of mostly Lutheran churches are completely disappearing. It's a Reformed region, so you got Catholics, you got a lot of atheists, you got Catholics, you usually in a village you have 2 churches. So there is like 40% of atheists, and then like 3 people come to a Lutheran church and 4 people come to a Catholic church, So it's like completely divided society. Not on a daily basis, but on this, it really doesn't suit the heritage. Yeah, it's really hard to preserve it in these conditions. So that's another question, like what to do. So that's how we try to help, at least to preserve whatever we can. And then we have manual voluntary work that's how we started actually, to really go in the place and do something. It's always good to join the community but we weren't very skilled in that. But nowadays we are getting closer to have that communication, persuasion to actually get the locals on board. So we have some volunteers weeks, some small grants from private fundings as well. So yeah, that's actually first year. That's like our most iconic picture. Like everybody was student, it was like 8 years ago. So Vlado didn't have beard back then, and not mentioning 2 kids already. So so we went from students to working people and having families. Yeah, so the development is like really on the personal base as well, and you don't have the time to dedicate it because we still work as volunteers. Then this. Sorry?
You'll soon be the old guy.
Yeah. That's what we are looking for. Just being invited for the events and stuff like that.
You took over from.
Yeah, but we were lucky that we had the generation that we could build on, and we are always surprised, like what you did in the 90s and we didn't know, because we developed new things and then we realized that it was developed 30 years ago, and we got all the researches somewhere in the drawer and we do it all over again. Okay, no worries. So heritage accessible to public is the second pillar of our actual work. And we're doing through popularizing monuments and frescoes, because the frescoes are the most sexy part of the architectural heritage we have. And it's the most quality and it's the pinnacle of the economy, of the culture, of the art that was present in the region in the medieval ages and is preserved until nowadays. So in a very good quality, I would say. So we are trying to do this Gothic Route Open event since 2017, and to attract, it's a movable event. So we always open 6 to 7 churches in a different part of the same region. So we have so many churches that in 8 years we can switch the churches, and take some direct routes, going to different churches. But now we are depleted with the most valuable objects. So this year we are switching to something that is completely deteriorating, to ruins of the churches, that was completely abandoned, and to show the people that this is as well heritage. Then discussions with public media presence, all that. We raised quite a lot on Facebook as well, because we try to popularize the heritage and biblical stories on the frescoes with nice posts, but our Facebook guy just left us kind of in January. So now we are trying to just get back on track. And we didn't realize it, but it's really a big hit because it was quite popular, and it's good to tell the story. Then the European Heritage Label. I'm getting closer to 20 minutes, so I will just run through the activities. Mostly, European Heritage Label got us on the track that we actually, as a small NGO, trying to help somewhere, we got a traction that we have a platform that actually self-governing region wrote the project, one of the self-governing regions, and we were the main partner for writing. So we got behind one table, we got 12 people, 12 mayors of 12 municipalities. We got owners of all the churches, of all the branches of Christianity behind one table. The museums, the galleries, like everybody, like to develop a plan for 5 years, like what to do, activize the activities in the church, how to bring in the community, how to serve the visitors, how to have opening hours for these churches, because it was always the worst problem for tourists to just get to the church, you know, because you call some old lady that she's cooking dinner or something. I was like, no, I'm not going to open, you know, because I'm cooking dinner. And you didn't call yesterday, you didn't tell me that you were coming, so I'm not going to open, yeah? And then it's frustration from the both sides. So the best solution for us, it was actually to open the churches under conditions and to pay the people to actually be their work during the summertime. So that's what we are trying to do the second year. We'll see how it goes. And this European Heritage Label gave us pretty much everything what we needed to have a voice, like a real voice, not to be like guys, you know, just trying to help, but to be actually the coordinators of some wider plans, which it's up to question if we are successful in that. So in 2023, it was Year of Frescoes. Yeah, I forgot to mention. So these are activities. These pictures are from the Gothic Route Open. Last year we had 800 people, you know, crossing 6 villages in the region and visiting all the churches. And we are having guides in there and having some culture, some lunch and stuff like that. So we try to serve these people. And on the right side, you see our conference. We have it biannually. We already had five sessions. And here is the proceedings of the conference. The last time we did it in English, we had from the Visegrad all the 4 countries coming and talking about the cultural heritage. So this is very important of our part. We are not only trying to get to the visitors and to the laymen, to the general public, but we are actually working and communicating with the professionals that are actually working in there, restoration artists, archaeologists, craftsmen, you know, historians and stuff like that. Put them under one forum every 2 years to get new information, new researches, everything that we use into presentation of the monuments later on to the normal public. And yeah, so that's how we try to popularize the actual science being done on those heritage sites. So that's what we are proud of, that connecting those two worlds, because the researchers and archaeologists and historians can't present themselves. Like, let's be honest, restoration artists, you know, they work on some frescoes in the church for 10 years, and then the doors are closed, doors are shut, and nobody sees it, you know, only the parish community. So everybody is really glad that their work is eventually visible somewhere. So that's our role, how to connect these both two worlds. And we do it through that conference as well. And yep. Here we go. Yep. So the Year of Frescoes, it was the last year. These are activities that weren't managed by us. We just helped somehow. I was guiding there with little kids, you know. You have the stories of the Passion of the Jesus Christ from the 14th century, and you got 6-year-old kids. So for me, it was quite a challenge, you know. I'm a tour guide, but you have to get to different levels, because sometimes you guide 5-year-old kids, sometimes you guide foreign art historian professors. Yeah, so that's a really difficult to manage, but it's all right. So we had a lot of concerts, we had a lot of school activities in galleries and so on. So that was for us, it was like very fruitful year, even without our engagement. So it was like, for us, it was nice because we were seeing that we didn't even catch like what everything is happening. Yeah, it was like really nice to see the communities and the kids and the schools getting together and being part of the story and, you know, seeding some seedlings into the local community, like, and discovering this heritage, which usually is not much well known by the locals, or they don't value, or they can't imagine the value of the heritage they have. So that's pretty much it. I already mentioned some larger challenges, and it's in the heritage like everywhere. Deteriorating heritage infrastructure, not enough money to you know, preserve them, non-accessibility, so the doors are not open. You really have to take care how to get in. Unfortunately, it's a kind of underdeveloped region, so it's not always safe as well for the churches to be opened. You know, so Westerners are usually asking like why the doors are not wide open, because in the 90s, after the dissolution of Czechoslovakia, some Gothic chalices got missing, you know, some Baroque statues got missing from the churches and so on. We got that story in our minds as well. So we know why the churches are closed, unfortunately. Hopefully in 20 years, it will be easygoing region, you know, you just open the doors and go and see. That would be nice. A large increase in tourism demand, because the region itself is right now on trending trajectory. We have a lot of different heritage, UNESCO caves, I don't know, nobility from the Hungarian times, chateaus, castles and stuff like that. So it's a very nice region. And we try to be part of that. Like when you see the region, just go and see the Gothic churches as well that were pretty much unknown to Slovak population. And now the demand is quite high. So we have to struggle with that. Of course, human resources, because it's a large brain drain in the region, as you have pretty much in Herculane and in Idria probably as well. Demographic and financial situation, of course, of the owners, the parishes mostly are declining. So in 10, 20, 15 years, a lot of churches will be actually without the active community, or without the active community that has the power to preserve this heritage. So that's what we need to work on, some sustainability, and that's when the tourism comes in. Monument protection, of course, that's, we told, it's like really massive and complex activity when you are not doing it on one object, but on many. But of course, it's not done by us. We are kind of an advisor and trying to move the owners to the right direction. Then heritage for everyone, that's everything what I mentioned. It's still a problem in the process of solving, I would say. And that's where comes multi-source financing, because we were pretty much solely in the reconstruction and in the getting the doors open, kind of, I would say, dependent on public funds, Ministry of Culture, and I don't know, their activities. Thank you, Michael. I know it's 26 minutes already. So yeah, now we are trying to focus on the private companies, private owners, make the workshops with them as well, and also getting large funding. And we were quite successful just recently, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So we try to develop that as well and to spread the word. So follow us and take whatever we brought, and thank you, and see you in Goticka cesta.